Welcome to Overseasoned.
It's only going to take one take.
I actually kicked him out of the restaurant.
Why?
Gotta bitch to someone.
Gotta bitch to somebody, and I'm good to bitch to.
I thought you were from Spain.
Yes, I am.
Oh.
Sí soy.
Gotcha.
Soy chorizo.
Oh, no.
You've gone into Martha Stewart land.
It's good. It's just not live.
Whatever.
Okay.
It's like a scene from Cocoon. Like the sun goes down.
You don't want to get blacklisted.
You know what, Mr. President? Is this what you want? So, Tony, when was the last time you sent something back at a... Have you ever sent something back at a restaurant?
I have to think. I can't recall the last time I sent something back.
But you have.
Yes. I can't. I know that I have. I'm trying to recall the dish and the place, but I know it's happened, and I'm still mortified
By the fact that you did,
Yeah.
or...
It has to be pretty. It has to be pretty wrong for me to send something back.
Okay. How about if... Does price come into it?
You know what? I remember what it was.
Okay.
I did not send something back, but I went to a restaurant and looked at the menu, and it just wasn't the same menu as I was expecting to have at this place.
Do you remember where you... Like, give me a place. Like, not
It was in Philadelphia, so it was a little bit of time ago.
Okay, so you're in Philly.
And it had like scallops on the menu, and it was like, it seemed like a nice bistro.
Okay.
It was from somebody who was on a TV show at the time. I did not know this.
Oh, otherwise you wouldn't have gone.
I don't know. I probably would have looked at the menu. I was just kind of stopped into a place.
Okay.
And
so you stumbled upon a restaurant in Philadelphia.
yeah,
Okay.
not knowing that it was part of this television chef movement type of a thing.
Oh, the television chef movement.
Well,
I understand.
You know.
I understand. I do know.
I remember that the chef was not there because he was out on the show, and that was part of the story of what they were saying. Our chef is out doing a television show, competition,
Okay.
Top Chef, whatever. And right there, I was like, oh, no. Oh, no. I just want a burger.
Yeah, got it.
But then I started looking at the menu, and one of the first things I saw on the menu was oysters with blackberry mignonette.
Okay.
And I just wasn't, I would like, I love oysters, I love mignonette. I just felt like that was trying a little bit too hard.
Okay, the blackberry threw it over the top for you.
Yeah, I was just like, what's going on here, right?
Okay.
And then
you got those.
I did. Well, I'm getting to that part.
Okay.
This is not a send back story. Oh. But it's send back adjacent.
Okay.
And I'm continuing to look at the menu, and I'm going through, and I'm like, no. And then I got to scallop noodles. Uh-huh. You know where they take perfectly beautiful scallops
Yup.
and puree them
Yup.
with transglutaminase or something along those
Yeah,
lines, and then squirt it through something as they poach it or boil it to make noodles out of.
So they can make like imitation crab out of the scallop.
I'm just like, why? I don't know if I'll ever would have ever been in the mood for that, and I certainly wasn't in the mood for that day. So I just kind of quietly got up and left.
Okay.
So it wasn't a send back, but
you
it was,
sent back the entire experience.
I was like, I do not want to be here.
Got it. So you didn't cost them necessarily any revenue. But
No.
it just, you sent back the menu.
I was kind of too nervous to get into a place where I would have felt like sending something back. And to be clear, I would never send something back because I just didn't like the dish. It would have to be wrong or burnt or something would have to be, not just because I didn't appreciate it.
Understood.
Right. So I knew I was going to have to suffer through that menu had I ordered those things.
And
I'm sure it was tasty. I'm sure it was,
you just saw
I'm sure it
scallop
was
noodles and it sent you
palatable.
over the top.
There was that whole period where things kind of like, close your eyes and it works. I'm more of a classic dishes kind of guy.
Yeah.
I don't need to close my eyes and see if it works.
Okay.
I
I understand.
Yeah.
And there was also that movement of let's buy the most beautiful tuna possible and then let's dry it and make it into a dust or a powder and then, like shimmy it all over whatever. A ravioli that's not a ravioli. It's actually a puree that's got a sphere around it.
Right. And we had an experience like that. Again, I think it was in Philly where they weren't the menu is very simply written. So it'd be like
So they bamboozled you.
chicken with sweet potato. I'm making this up completely.
Okay.
And Brussels sprouts. But it would be chicken ballantine type of a thing with sweet potato foam, just for example.
Yeah.
And Brussels sprout granite, you know? And that was like, no, that's not what it was. That wasn't the dish, right?
Yeah.
So I've had a few of those experiences too, where I didn't send it back, but I didn't go back.
You know, I do have I have a recent, I should have sent it back, and we'll get into that. But do you think because of restaurant trauma, we're never going to send anything back?
It's definitely harder.
Yes, I'm with you. So I've had there's been plenty of times that I've gotten food that I just don't like.
Oh, I had another experience more recently. I just remembered. I think I actually blanked it out of my memory because it is exactly what you're saying.
Actual PTSD. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's go into it.
It wasn't me that sent it back. It was someone else at the table.
Okay.
We were upstate New York at a fancy kind of place.
Okay, so you're upstate, fancy place. What kind of menu? What is the expectation of the experience?
It was new menu, and it was a kind of a spa type of a thing. Beautiful grounds, inn, hotel kind of a thing.
Okay, got it. So like an inclusive, not an inclusive resort, but like a resort feel.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's you travel there. It's 35, 45 minutes away, and there's nowhere else to go to after you know.
And is it like a Frenchy menu, like a farm to table kind of thing, like a
Sure.
modern American?
Yes.
Okay.
But again, their dishes were they weren't exactly representative of what you think about when you read the item on the menu. The appetizers were incredibly teensy-tiny. Like asparagus was literally like maybe one fat asparagus shaved really thin.
Oh, yeah, like
Right?
the ribbons.
In the asparagus ribbons and a little broth of some sort. With,
Okay.
it just
so
wasn't-
it was precious.
It was very precious.
Okay.
Very big tweezer food.
How was the asparagus dish?
It was flavorful, but it wasn't.
You just wanted some food.
You couldn't really sink your teeth into it.
Yeah.
Which is something you're like, I'm out of the city. I'm not gonna. You don't have that fear, right?
Does it come with fear?
Well,
Do your dining experiences come with fear?
no, but I had a little bit of a because there's other places in the area which are fantastic, and we were you tend to not. You don't get the Some people don't get the opportunity to go out that much. So when you stray from your favorites, you're kind of hoping,
you're rolling the dice.
You're rolling the dice, and you're hoping you have a great experience, and it's worthwhile because you don't get another shot.
Yeah.
The babysitter doesn't come back for 2 weeks or something, right?
Understood. So
So this is it.
I understand.
And kind of suffered through the appetizers, all loosely, I guess.
What
Like
please
amuse-bouche kind of.
please tell me you guys didn't split the asparagus.
Well, it was kind of for the table. Remember, there were 3 of us.
The wisps.
Wisps of if a stiff breeze would have come up, it would have blown it right off the table.
Fair.
No joke. And
Food
I can't
cost
even.
is good on that.
There was like a cheese. I can't quite recall the dishes themselves. Again, it's
compartmentalized
It's complete compartmentalized. Chained it up, threw it down the well.
Yeah.
And then the entrees come out, and some were good and some were total misses.
Okay.
So I had a pork chop, right? Pork chop, good.
Was good?
Yeah, it was a simple pork chop with polenta. And then there was a fish dish that was like a Thai style.
Like a whole fish, crispy with like herbs.
Yeah,
and-
but it did not say whole fish with bones and stuff on the menu. And it was kind of a departure from the rest of the menu. So we weren't really expecting.
right, because you go from like super delicate, like ribbons of asparagus with whatever, like trout roe, and then you move on to what it becomes a rustic street side dish.
Well, it wasn't so rustic. It was very fancy looking, but it was kind of twisted around like a trout bleu,
I don't want. What is a trout au bleu?
A trout bleu is when you cook a trout alive, and it goes around to. I've never made this. It's
You haven't?
It's a classic French thing.
Okay.
And the cooking makes the muscles go around, so it stands up on the dish, and the mouth goes around to kind of look like it's eating the tail.
Whoa.
Yeah. So it was, I don't think it was cooked alive, but that's the shape it was in.
So you have this snapper au bleu.
Yeah, and it had like a salad in the middle, but bone in. I couldn't quite see it, and it wasn't my dish, so I couldn't quite see it.
Were you happy it wasn't
there
your
was
dish?
Yeah, I was hungry because there was a salad kind of there was like stuff all over it, so you couldn't quite tell, which made it equally difficult to remove the fillet from the bones. And some people are just not bone. They don't want to see the face. They don't want to see the eyes. They don't want to see a fin. They don't want to see a bone. They just want the beautiful fish on a plate.
Yeah, they want a fillet.
Right. And this was kind of unfilletable because it was circular. It was like round.
What do you think the expectation?
I think it was fried. I think it was like lightly battered and like lightly dusted and fried to get that.
What do you think the expectation from the creator of this dish may have been?
It was super tweezer food. I just know they were
But
like.
how do you have tweezer food with bones in it?
Well, just the way it was presented.
Okay, so
It was like the stuff coming out of the middle of the fish with the sauce around and full fish. It looked cool from a chef's perspective.
okay, it looked cool.
But from eating it was impossible.
So what happened?
So it was a newer place, and it was like 3 weeks old or something like that.
Okay.
And they didn't know which manager was supposed to come out to talk to us. And
Talk of being afraid.
Yeah.
I mean, you just summed up my number one nightmare in a restaurant, or in the choice of a restaurant. But go ahead. 3 weeks in, and you've got a
So me, I'm
snapper
like,
au
oh,
bleu.
it's brand new, but it's like it's really a bad dish, and they're obviously. It's not like they were hacking it out. They really put care and attention into this dish. It was
Fair.
just bad. It just wasn't. It didn't translate to the diner.
Understood. This execution and, well, I guess the dishes that came before and the expectation of the type of experience.
I started getting scared at the appetizers. I was like, I don't know what's going to go on here.
Do you remember any other appetizers? I'm really interested now. I'm
They're going to
curious.
float to the top over the course of this conversation, and I'll just blurt them out.
Okay, fair.
I'll just say
as you uncompartmentalize
Yeah.
and the PTSD kind of subdues.
scallop butternut risotto, but it was like one scallop, flayed out with 4 puffed pieces of rice over the top of it. I just made that one up too, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
So that got, it was unedible. It just wasn't. You couldn't. It was just a mass of bones and flaked fish within
I'm
2 minutes.
so interested to see this dish now, because look, I mean, I'm a.
It wasn't one we were taking pictures of. It was more like.
But like I even think to myself, like let's say you just dropped a snapper in the fryer and decided to throw some herbs on there, like I'll make it work.
Sure. I think part of it was that it was kind of.
It was concaving on itself.
It was sitting on its belly and round. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like flat. So it was like twisted around. So the fish was like was upright. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Do you understand what I'm saying?
No.
Yes. Okay. Picture a fish.
All right, I'm picturing a fish. All right, I'm looking at a snapper.
It was
like a round fish, right?
Right.
Okay, it was a round.
And
fish.
it was like so curved around. So like the head was going towards the tail. Flat on the plate with stuff coming out the middle and like a sauce around. So you couldn't even like fillet it yourself tableside had you known what was doing, because you start to eat it and it all just kind of falls apart and very ill-conceived.
Okay. It was cool to look at and it was impossible to eat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool for a chef. It was cool for the kitchen to look at, I'm sure.
Right.
But no one could eat it.
It was impossible to eat.
Yeah. So there was a conversation and they took that off the bill.
What was the conversation at the table? Was it like there's no fucking way I can eat this?
Yeah,
kind of thing?
Basically.
How do I eat this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you hear this, I mean, you were already squirming at the asparagus. You knew it was coming.
I knew it was coming.
You knew, yes.
We all knew it was
That's
coming.
the problem. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that you're scared of the restaurant. It's not necessarily that you're scared of a dish. It's that you know what comes next.
Yeah.
And
I was waiting for it.
as a sage of the restaurant world, were you more afraid of the returns that you knew were on the way, or were you more afraid of like, you know what I mean? It's like
I just put myself, it's hard for me to not just to be a diner, and I put myself in the
Yes.
in the
Of course you
of the
do.
mindset of the restaurant, but
Yes.
it wasn't cheap either, right? So it was
So,
like
right.
$45 something.
What is
dollars.
cheap?
I don't mean cheap.
No, I mean,
it was
like,
already
there's
a
nothing-
pricey meal,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
And it was just inedible. It just was.
Okay.
So I think
So
that
you agreed with the send back.
yes.
Okay.
Especially because it was a brand new place, and I think they kind of had to know this is not. We want it to be good. We want to go back. We want it to succeed. Right?
Sure.
But that menu wasn't cutting it.
Interesting. But how do you, there's no way that you can, man, that's so sad.
Sad for who?
Everybody. It's sad for
True.
everybody. It's sad for the manager who has to like,
Go back to the kitchen and
dude,
say,
and there's always that
Yeah.
fucking dish.
Yeah.
There's always that one
Yeah.
that inevitably ends up being the one that you're returning like you're like, oh shit, they ordered the crab gratin. Dude, I told you about this crab gratin.
Yes.
We had this, I worked at a restaurant that had a crab gratin. I don't even know how to say it. And it was jumbled up crab with bechamel that had a ton of nutmeg in it. Like so much nutmeg, dude. Like, did you guys fuck this up?
how did you pair something with that? How do you pair something with nutmeg?
I don't know. You give them a cookie
Apple
and
cider.
say, yeah, exactly. You're like, like
Apple
happy
cider,
Thanksgiving.
crab cake, yeah.
Yeah. So,
And Gruyere.
yes, I told you about this.
Yes.
So it was jumble up crab. It was super nutmeggy bechamel, and then it was this like casserole that was roasted in the oven with Gruyere, and it might have had Morbier cheese on top. Like it was like
The
when
last cheese you want to even be anywhere above room temperature.
oh, dude, it was the stinkiest.
Isn't that what Morbier means?
Dish.
Doesn't that mean like
Morbid? I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't
think
know.
it's something in that kind of
You're
realm.
you're the French man.
I gotta remember.
And dude, every time, like, you know how, well, you don't because you're never a front of the house guy, but there are times when people say, how do you like the blah, blah, blah? And how do you like the crab gratin? And I'm like, I just remember always being like, are you in the mood for seafood? Like you just try to redirect.
Mm-hmm.
You just, because you don't want to say, look, it smells like somebody, a lactose intolerant person just had way too much ice cream and now you have to sit through a movie with them, right? You say, listen, if the swordfish, wild caught, comes with a beautiful balsamic vinaigrette on top with basil, like you just start selling other ones, right? Hoping that the diner gets the idea. Like, oh, maybe I shouldn't get
But
to
were
crab
people,
gratin.
did they like this dish? Or
Dude, so every time, and there was no way to convince the chef that it was a bad dish because it was like, it was one of those.
they just don't understand it.
Yes, it was one of those comments. This was the kind of chef that would be like, you'd be out back smoking a cigarette, and somebody'd be like, "Man, I hate seafood with cheese," and they'd be like, "I'll show you. You just don't know how to eat it." That kind of thing. Like I can make anything
it was
work.
a flex dish.
It was a flex,
Like
dish.
super flex. Like not mozzarella, but Morbier.
Dude, it was. So I'd be like in the service bar waiting for drinks to come up, and as soon as this thing hit the broiler, it would just the waft. It just like the
You think the cooks
permeating
back there liked it?
stench, dude.
Especially with your nose.
Dude, I remember just being like, how did this make it on the menu? How did this get R&D'd in? Like, what is going? And anyway, so anytime somebody ordered it, it was one of those dishes that like one bite it would come out with crostinis, and it was just like such an
appetizer.
No, it was a dinner. It was an entree.
What? I hadn't pictured that.
Dude, it was like 6
it was-
ounces of jumbo lump crab ruined.
It was like a
By
commitment.
fettuccine Alfredo that like a stinky cheesemonger decided to get involved with. It was so bad. And it was so stinky. And I just like, I don't know. Anyway, I am like,
But were people sending it back?
yes.
Okay.
So I think
It wasn't just they put it off to the side or
one or two out of 5.
And what reasons did they give?
This stinks. Right?
Literally and figuratively.
This stinks. Here's the thing, right? Like a couple weeks ago, I had like a really interesting dish, which was like some seared scallops with some like a Parmesan tuile, maybe like some yuzu, and it was tasty, right?
Parmesan tuile and yuzu.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was like, but like, and brown butter. So it was like brown butter and like fresh chives and like it had like, some anyway. It wasn't offensive. It was like the Parmesan was like an umami little punch.
Yeah,
right?
the tuile is it's not smoldering on the top of it either. Yeah. It's like a tuile is like a cookie.
Yeah,
like kind of thing.
It was like a nice little crunchy whatever, right? And there are times where you can have some fun, and like you said, like you've mentioned that for example, like a little maybe like an amatriciana with some shrimp, and you throw a little parm on there, and that's fine.
Yeah.
It'll taste good, right? But in this case, it's like you're literally sending into the dining room like something that smells like ass. It smells like ass.
I mean, I can't recall, but morbia means like smells like dead feet.
Well, dude, like this dish would
Cold.
Like food
like
runners
that.
would walk through the dining room with this thing, and I would apologize. I'd be like,
To the food runner.
no, like I'd first off, I'd apologize to my own nostril, and then after I said, "Self, I'm sorry," and so it's okay. Then I would hold my breath until this like subdued, and then I'd wonder who sold that. I'd literally think to myself, who sold that?
Who let someone order it?
Yes, right? And then I'd look over at whoever was about to indulge in said stank, and I'd always just feel bad. I'd always be like, you know what? Server just did you an injustice.
You gotta write the server up.
Dude, it was horrible. And then so this would hit the table, and here's what would always happen. Always. Go over to clear, and it would either somebody took a bite or two, or they'd send it back.
Wow.
Or they'd send it back. And this chef was like a hotshot chef that like came from like a New York pedigree, and we're all supposed to bow down. Bow. You know what I mean? You walk into the kitchen, you're like, "Oh, sorry, chef, didn't mean to make eye contact." Right? Forgive me. My hands have never touched a Michelin star dish. And anyway, it was like, it's almost now looking back, I wonder if he did it just to be like, you suburbanite pieces of.
Well, were there over the day where it's like you're not moving it, it's not moving, and you have 15 orders?
Yeah.
You're like, guys, you got to push this.
How about this? I've only seen crab gratin on one menu, and I'm pretty sure it only lasted for a certain amount of time.
But were you ever in charge of actually pushing it, or did you just ignore that?
Oh, sure.
Directive.
Yeah, no. Listen, you know how many times we've gotten up to like a staff, like the pre-shift? We walk up and chef's all proud, brand new dish. Hey, I want you all guys to eat this. Like, I've got whatever. I've got seared wahoo with burnt blood orange beurre blanc, and we're like, whoa, another beurre blanc. And we like, everybody is like standing at the center of pre-shift. Everybody's standing at the center of pre-shift. Everybody's hungover from last night's overconsumption of Jameson and cigarettes. And here we are, like, just looking for any caloric intake. You know what I mean? Like,
I've been the guy I've been the guy doing the beurre blanc.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I've been that guy.
Listen, and we're all sitting there. We're all excited.
Blood angel, that's a good idea.
Just get anything, right? Just like, I'm like, Jesus, dude, if I don't have like a calorie right now, I'm about to pass out. I'm like sweating from like how much I drank last night. And we're like, sweet food. And we're all in line. We're all in line like peasants. Just excited for
like
this
one
dish. Yeah, one dish. Everybody gets one spoonful, right? Of course,
maybe we should taste the new cheeses tonight, chef. They're on the cheese.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And here we are, and it's always the one who doesn't drink that gets the big bite. We're like, oh, dude, You don't even drink.
He's
We
first,
need
he's
this.
fastest.
We need this to get through.
He cares about selling
The
it.
biscuits aren't ready. That's the only thing that gets us through the shift is the biscuits that come free, you know? And so, anyway, so, we're all in line. We all take a bite. We like walk off and look at each other. And we're like, I am not selling that. Nobody's selling that, but nobody has the guts to walk up to chef and be like, bro, when you said burnt blood orange beurre blanc, you should have just said like acrid, overcooked, disgusting, sour, bitter sauce. Right? Say that. That would have been a very apropos name.
See, no one tells the truth. That, maybe someone
Burnt
should.
Blanc.
Maybe somebody should cross the barrier and actually tell the truth once in a while. They might lose their job.
Well, that's the
But
thing. That's the thing.
Eventually, it will be appreciated.
Yeah, and then chef's upset.
Everyone's like, "Yes, chef, great chef,
Chef's
fantastic
upset
chef."
the next day. We only sold 2 wahoo yesterday. Oh, really? Did you try it? Yeah, we sold 2 wahoo. You're lucky. Anyway, and then we're all like hitting each other in a staff meal. It's like, if we don't push it tonight, that's staff meal tomorrow.
Right.
And all of a sudden, the burnt blanc is like #1 seller that night because we don't want to eat it.
Wow.
Now we're pawning it off. Anyway, so yeah.
Diner beware.
Listen, man. It brings me right back. So anyway,
I could tell.
Yeah. So okay, so you send it back, and did you guys get another? Did you get another dish to replace?
No, just came off the bill. But
came
that's
off the
all they took off. I was kind of expecting,
Like a little dessert?
well, I don't know,
little creme brulee?
something to sweeten the deal. And it was kind of like, shall we make you another one? It's like, no. Or can I make you something? No, we can't.
Yeah.
We're out of here, and that's it. And I don't think there's anything else on the menu that I would want.
So, dude, I don't know that I don't think I have never returned a dish. Never.
Ever.
I don't know that I have. I can't think of, look, so I'll give you an example. I go to, it was like, so I live in Florida now, which on its own is an adventure. And
An adventure of delicious seafood.
it is. And there's some really cool things about being down in Florida.
Taxes.
Taxes, yup, absolutely. I don't know, gators, right? Sunshine, yeah. So it's like 9:10, which on the west coast of Florida in Sarasota is the equivalent to like 12:45 New York time.
Right.
And so, it's like a scene from Cocoon. Like the sun goes down and all the diners are like scurrying back to their Buicks. Like, it's time to get back home. And so I'm sitting there and I want a steak. Right? Let's go to a steak. So I go to a place. So like the only place open, right?
It was a established.
Oh, dude,
restaurant.
I'll even call it out. I went to the Capitol Grill.
You used to work at the Cap Grill.
I used to work at the Capitol Grill. Yeah, so I know what they do, and they have good food, good recipes, the whole deal. And honestly, one of my favorite dishes, to this day, is the porcini crusted ribeye. It's fucking delicious. Bone-in ribeye. It's got porcini dust on the outside. They hit it with like aged balsamic. It's this awesome ribeye's delicious on its own. But that sweet aged balsamic and the earthiness of the porcini, I crave it sometimes. And so I'm like, that's what I want. I want that, right? And I also want a wedge salad because I'm turning into the old man I used to make fun of. That's just how it works.
What else are you going to get at a steakhouse?
Caesar salad, shrimp cocktail.
What's the difference between a wedge salad and a Caesar salad?
There's a lot.
I mean, I get that, but
there's a lot.
It's still the same. You're going to get one or the other.
It's a deliciously creamy dressing on a crunchy vehicle.
Yeah.
Right. But mine wins because it has bacon on it.
Your personal one or the one you had?
No, the wedge. My salad. This is the wedge. The wedge beats a Caesar. In this case.
In which case? In all cases, or just at this? At the Cap?
I think in most cases, I'd rather have
a wedge.
Yeah, I've had too many horrible Caesar wraps at the airport.
I agree. Plus, Caesar salads, they can have too much variance. A wedge
they're
is
absolutely
pretty much always a wedge.
Yes. So so I walk in. It's 9:15 ish, like 9:15, and I'm like, on the door it says like 10 o'clock. Kitchen at 10. I'm like, fucking yeah, sweet. But I just made the fucking. I realized what my mistake was. So it's 9:15. It's Saturday. It's Saturday, and I'm thinking it's going to be decently full, and walk in and it's like
dead.
It's dead, and I'm like
on a Saturday.
Wow.
And it must be a big. I mean, it's a big.
It
restaurant.
was the Saturday before.
How many
Easter.
do you think?
It was a Saturday before Easter.
Well, how many seats is this restaurant?
It's got to be at
Huge.
least 150.
Right.
Maybe 200. So I'm like, you know what? Like, there's only a couple tables going. Let's say the place is, it's got 5 tables that I can see in the bar area, and there's probably 20 tables in the bar altogether, like booths and high tops and all.
5 occupied.
5 occupied tables, yes.
Okay. Out of 20.
Out of 20. And then the bar is probably like, if it's got 20 seats, there's 5 people at the bar. So sit at the bar, and I'm like, hey guys, like, is the kitchen still open? Is it okay? Like, I double checked. I'm like, you know what? It feels like
Yeah. You knew when you walked in.
Oh, I can't whistle, but it felt like that, like with the tumbleweeds. Wow, wow, wow. And I'm like, all right, well. So I'm like, hey guys, I know what I want. I'll be quick. Is it cool if I order some dinner? And they're like, oh yeah, you're good. You're good till 9:45. The bartenders were actually very nice, although they did one of these like, oh yeah, you're fine.
Right. Don't want that tip. Don't want that last tip of the day.
Yeah. So, and I told him, I'm like, look, I'll probably beat most of these people out of here. And I did. And I did. Right. So, so I'm sitting at the bar and I order my standard Capital Grille order. Wedge salad. I could go for one. Always. I don't know why. I love them so much. Porcini rubbed ribeye. And I went medium rare. Mm-hmm. Why? Because I'd usually go medium on a ribeye.
Yeah,
because I like it to cook in. I like it. I like the marble to get a little bit more cooked. Right? So it melts down.
Melt that fat in.
Yes, correct. So, but I ordered medium rare, thinking I'd rather under than over, right? And also, I don't know what it is, but like I feel like there's an epidemic of inability to broil steaks right now in the world.
Well, I'll let you get to the next point.
Yeah. If I get medium rare, it's either like black and blue, like somebody was just like, oh, medium rare. I guess I'll just like get a little bit of color on this thing and send it out. Or it's like medium plus. But
at a place that,
No, but that's what they do.
Yeah,
that's what they do.
You'd think they have it pretty dialed in. I would imagine in most cases they have it pretty dialed in.
Yes. And listen, I've had really great. I have mostly great experiences, and let me preface all this by saying I will go back sometime. So anyway,
at 6 p.m.
Yeah. So I order all this food and a side of mushrooms. Cops. That's what they used to tell us during training, so we'd remember what mushrooms were in the roasted mushroom field blend. Cops. Creminis, oysters, portobellos, and shiitakes.
Nice.
See? And then and they would finish that with like some. It's a really good dish.
Is it nice that the menu has not changed since you were a busboy
It's the best part about steakhouses.
Yeah.
The best part. One day
How
I want to have.
Was it that you worked there?
What, dude? I worked there in 2005, which is like 20 fucking years ago.
I don't have my calculator on me. Yeah.
Holy shit. 20 years ago. So I got the wedge, and like one of the beauties of the wedge is how do you fuck that up?
Yeah.
It's like perfect. As long as it's crisp, fresh wedge.
It can only be underdressed.
Oh, well, you can fuck up a wedge.
You can fuck up
I've
anything.
had plenty of fucked up wedges when it's like, oh, I'm going to fucking, let me toss some,
Yes.
I'm going to buy the smallest piece of lettuce that you've ever seen and, mess with the classic.
12ths. Yeah.
Yeah. You're out there. People who mess up wedges. Just put a big, juicy, crisp, fresh piece of iceberg. I don't want it to be like a different radicchio. I've ordered a wedge and it's been grilled radicchio, and that I should have sent back.
Yes.
That I should have sent back.
But that's
anyway.
where the menu just isn't, like if it would have said grilled radicchio wedge, at least, forewarned is forearmed or whatever.
Yeah. Like the chef is in the back, like, can't make payroll, haven't paid my vendors, but you know what's going to change everything? When I grill the radicchio. Anyway, so I got the wedge. It was delicious, crisp, and then I got the porcini ribeye, and the ribeye hits the table. I'm all excited, and I take my first cut, and it's out of like the spinalis part, and it's definitely cooked through. But I'm like, you know what? It's a fattier
edge.
part. It's the edge. It's the edge. Yeah, no problem. So then I take a bite. I dip it in the balsamic, and this balsamic is so delicious. You could like dip turd in it. It just tastes delicious, right? So I'm just, and I'm like, okay, well, that was definitely overcooked. And I just keep on going.
What would you say it was? Mid-well?
There was no pink left.
Mid-well.
There was no pink
On
left.
its way to well.
Yes, it was on its way to well. And then I keep going. And, I get to like the third bite and I'm like, this is definitely overcooked, like really overcooked.
Did the food come out quickly?
It was like well timed. It wasn't like it wasn't too fast or too slow.
This steak was hanging out.
Oh, hell, we know what happened.
Yeah.
We know what happened. We know that there was a couple pre-seared ribeyes, right? This might have even been porcini'd after the fact. It's fine. This happens. But here's the thing is, so I'm eating this ribeye and thankfully it was a ribeye, right? Because it would have been harder to get through if it was like, say, a porterhouse that was almost well. You know what I mean? Because obviously strip filet
Wellish.
is, yes. And so, all right. So I'm like, and I think to myself, I'm like, all right, like, what do I do? Do I
You've
eat?
been in Florida for a while too. So
Yeah.
I was getting to.
What's that
Do you
mean?
think that it's
What are you trying to say?
so?
Did the red hat give it away?
Do you think that the they know their clientele? And
Oh, yeah.
Perhaps-
I will say that
they have 20% of medium rare.
actually means midwell.
Right. Because
Oh,
people order it one way and it comes back and the chef's like, that is mid rare or whatever.
It could be.
And then they have to
What I think
kill it
really
and send it
happened.
back.
What I think really happened is they got yelled at about food cost. They had a seared ribeye in the back that they were like, okay, we got last checks in or whatever
It
they
just
said.
happened to be a ribeye.
And it was a
happened to have
ribeye,
one
and
right
they're
there.
like, let me just sear this. I'll bring this one up. You know what I mean? I'll warm it up, and then I'll send it out.
They knew it was.
I don't know that they did. I am
How
not.
could they not?
I am not going to make the assumption, right? I always err towards it's not malintended. It's always with the best intent that people serve food,
Well,
right?
okay.
I would say that.
Okay.
But here's the thing. So I'm eating the steak, and it's really overcooked, and then I'm just getting mushrooms and putting them on top. And look, I've been that guy. I've been the manager who's like, okay, so, the last table has 3 steaks out of 5 that are screwed up, and then when you get back there, you're like, oh, the broiler's off.
Right.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Right.
Great job, guys. Great job. Oh, and all the steaks are put away, and everything's gone, and they're mopping and cleaning, right? And here's the thing: is like, you're like, internally, you're like, why wouldn't you just leave the broiler on? Why? But then you remember to earlier that day when the CFO was like, your labor costs are crazy, and you're like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So there's no way to win.
Right.
No way to win. And I'm with someone, so I'm also not going to be the dude who's like, hey, my ribeye is overcooked. Will you make me a new one? And then they got to, what are you going to do? Bring new mushrooms?
That's the thing. It's like, do you want
And then-
another one?
And,
You don't.
and the person that was with me got a medium rare filet, which was definitely black and blue. It was like,
Whoa. So 2 completely opposite sides
Yes,
of the spectrum.
yes.
All right. So
I look over and I'm like, are you cool with your steak? And they go, no, it's fine. You know what I mean? I'm not going to eat the whole thing. So this is perfect. I'll like re-sear
who,
it.
the bartender asked this?
No, the person I'm eating with.
Gotcha.
And so I think to myself, I'm like, you know what? I've made the mistake. I'm not perfect. I don't know if you know this, but I'm not perfect. I've made the mistake of overcooking my own steak.
Oh, absolutely.
I did it just a couple weeks ago.
You do it because you're doing one 3 weeks. You know, you got to learn the.
It was honestly.
You get out of practice.
It was one of those beautiful, like locally pastured pork chops that has like that fat cap on it, and like as soon as I flipped the pork chop, I literally walked inside to just get all the things together that I needed to grill the asparagus while the pork chop was resting. And dude,
You left the grill on?
Oh, the grill was on. I literally seared the one side. I might have like.
So it wasn't resting yet. It was
No, it wasn't
still
resting.
Actively grilling.
It was grilled on one side. I came back at like probably 4 minutes. I'm like, oh, perfect, right? Then I flip it onto the other side, and I go inside. I'm like, all right, let me grab the asparagus. I'm gonna grab the olive oil, and I'm gonna grab some like malt and salt, and I'll come back outside. And I'm going to start to break the ends of the asparagus. And I have a little sink out there, so I'll wash it. And then I'll while the pork chop rests, I will grill the asparagus. And dude, I literally opened my fridge, and I'm like, what is burning?
It was the fat.
Dude, yes.
Yeah.
I literally was like, the pork. It was so fast that I just didn't expect it.
You have to cook it like completely off the coals.
Dude,
completely.
I literally I was like, oh no. And I turn around, dude, and the fire was like, it looked like Evel Knievel was like in my backyard. And dude, when I open, and it makes me feel so bad because like I ordered this really special pork called Campo Grande, which is like Iberian pork. It's Spain raised pork, and it's all these cool chops that don't make it into like the charcuterie stuff, like the chorizos and all that stuff.
Lomo.
And so when I got back out there, dude, not only it wasn't like, ooh, let me see if I can save this. The bone. It turned into like, like a matchstick.
You got to catch that fat. Will just start burning so fast.
Holy
And you get into
shit.
like you had a nice fat cap on it, right? So you're trying to preserve that because it looks great, and you want it to get caramelized
How
and
about
rendered.
This? I even had it on super low. The grill was not on medium.
The fat drips down. Fire is going to light
it
up.
went up.
Yeah. And then once it
crazy.
starts going, it just keeps going.
Anyway, so I've done this mistake myself, and I'm eating this ribeye, and it's still good. It's a good piece. It's a quality piece of meat. They made a mistake. End of night, they're probably getting all kinds of stuff going. And
stop making excuses.
Well, listen.
It was the last table. They hacked it out.
And guess what I did?
Especially because the other one was black and blue. Right?
Well, and here's the thing: is now.
And how much was this steak?
Yeah, it was $75.
$75.
$75, Johan. Can you believe that? And I'm like, damn, dude, like that was an expensive mistake. But guess what? Then the guys from the kitchen come out and they're all watching basketball. And I'm just like,
I didn't realize they were there.
I'm eating. Yeah, dude. So the guys, because there's basketball on, I guess it's the end of a game. And I'm eating my steak and I'm looking at these motherfuckers. And I'm like, go home. Just go home. I know you're tired.
They're waiting for another table to come in, X. They're
open for another 45 minutes.
Yet.
Dude, so, and I felt bad. You know what I mean? What I wanted to do was be like, yo, guys.
No, we all feel bad. That's the point. Like, we feel bad, not.
Yeah. And
we feel bad for them, not for
for my
$300 check.
Yes, correct. And so, I ate my steak and then we left. And then I'm like, what is the right thing to do? What is the real right thing to do? Because it actually brings me back to an experience I had when I was young. When I was a som at a casino restaurant. I had a friend come in. Maybe not a friend. He was a previous manager at a place that I also had worked. And I really wanted him and his party to have a great time. So, send out apps and really just wanted to show him, some hospitality, which is what we do. Restaurant people, we love to, have a good time and show a good time to the friends that come in. So I So they come in and he actually got a ribeye too, and it was overcooked. And I came over, and I'm like, "Hey, how's your dinner?" and all, and pour at him. He goes, "It's overcooked." He's like, "Don't worry about it. I just want you to know, right?" And I'm like, "Eat portions of it, and I'm gonna get you a new one." And he goes, "No, don't worry about it." And I'm like, "No, I'm gonna leave this one. Eat what you want of it, but I'm getting you a freshie." And he's like, "Dude, don't worry about it. I'm just letting you know so you can tell the broiler." And I'm like, "You think I'm gonna go back there and be like, by the way, you overcooked that?" No, fuck no. I just went back there and I said, "Hey guys, I need a mid-rare ribeye as soon as possible," right? And they're like, "No problem." They got me one, and I switched it out. And I remember,
That's good timing because if you get too far in the meal, everyone else is finished, and then
Yes.
your dish comes out.
Well, and that's the
you
thing.
don't want that. That's even worse
that's
than
the thing.
eating
It's
the
like, you ever go to a restaurant
well-done whatever.
where like there's often this thing, right, where they're like, "Well, I'm taking this one away." There's this like a protective thing. Like, what are you gonna do with that steak? Like, let the guy eat
I
some of
see
that
you.
steak,
Right.
And then when the one that's ordered properly comes out, then you just swap it out.
I had somebody in the restaurant once send back a piece of fish because it was overcooked. And, excuse me,
Do you remember what kind of fish it was?
I want to say halibut, something white and flaky like that.
Okay,
Something
like a turbo or something.
potentially.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it was turbo, but it was something thicker. It was
Oh,
a thicker
okay.
fish.
Okay.
And they sent back like all the garnish was gone, and maybe like an inch and a half piece of the edge, and said this was overcooked, and they wanted a whole brand new one.
So what'd you do?
I went out and talked to them.
No.
Yes.
Oh, I love
said-
it when chef comes out.
I said, "Sir, you ate the fish." It was a brand new manager, front of the house manager, I remember.
Okay, where-
And she came back and she said, "This guy's a little weird. I just need some help."
Oh, so she wanted the backup.
And it was, I mean, you're going to...
It was finished.
He wanted 2 entree. It was done.
It was
right?
finished. Was this at Oriole?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I went on and said, "Sir, we can't cook another. You ate the dish, and I think we talked about discounting it or taking off the bill or something, but I wasn't going to cook him another one." I kind of figured what he was up to.
Okay, unless he's going to pay for it. What if he said, "I'll just pay for one"?
Well, sure.
Yeah,
Cook
yeah,
another
then-
one.
then
You want
there's
two?
no reason
You
for
want
me to be
two,
here.
Right?
Right.
And then he started to get a little bit, why would you not cook me another one? I want another one. You overcooked it, and started kind of causing a scene in
Even
the
though
restaurant.
he ate the entire
and he was
thing.
kind of like a big,
Yeah.
you could just tell he was a little off.
Yeah, okay.
So I actually kicked him out of the restaurant.
Have you ever done that before?
First and last time.
Did it feel good?
I was kind of petrified, but I was also, the guy was just so out of line. It was completely warranted.
Okay.
And it was kind of at the end of the night too, so it wasn't too busy, and it was just like, "Sir, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave."
Did they pay their check and then he left?
No, out. We'll take care of your check. You get
He
out.
got what he wanted.
So did we.
Okay. Dude, I didn't know you've ever thrown somebody out of a restaurant. I've thrown 2 people out of a restaurant.
What happened there?
So one person. So I'm sitting at I'm not sitting. We have a normal, pretty busy service at a steakhouse in Philly. And there's a table that sits down, and they kind of had like a unshowered thing going on. You know what I mean? Like a little bit sticky looking.
Where was this? Philly?
Actually, this was Atlantic City too. God, Atlantic City puts you through the ringer. So this was in Atlantic City. They come to sit down, and the appetizers come out, and the server comes up to me. I actually think it was Anthony Raffici. The PTSD clarity is coming through. Great kid, really and everybody loved him, right? So he was the type of server that would always get like requests and just great tableside manner. And he comes up and he's like, "Yo, boss, I got to tell you, I got a problem. There's a hair in the appetizer. You mind just like smoothing it over, boss?" I'm like, "Bro, no problem. I'll go." I walk over, and they're kind of like mid 50s towards late 50s, a little dingy looking, look like they live out of a car kind of thing. Like nothing wrong with that, but just didn't fit the normal guest profile of like either gamblers or out
Right.
for a show, whatever.
Right.
It just kind of felt like a little okay,
The
but
buffet's
whatever.
right that way.
But whatever, it's all good. Yeah, the buffet. Yes. And, but all good. You know, I'd never, unless I'm selling wine to somebody, I'll never judge somebody before I walk to the table.
Yeah.
But when I'm selling wine, I'll definitely judge it. Anyway, but so I walk over, and, you know, listen, man, everybody deserves to go out to eat. And that's what I love about steakhouses. It's like a level playing field. It's not so fancy that you feel uncomfortable. And look, you never know. These people might have had a rough day. They might have lost, they might have lost a lot of money at the tables. Always going to go to the table respectfully and nice.
Of course.
And, hey, we got a crab cake, and look at this. And they show me, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, would you like another one? They're like, no. But, you know, like, just tell them to put their hair back. And one of the things I will tell you about Atlantic City is it's very strict as far as like the health inspections and all that stuff. And we were all very like well trained by the company, and also like very always like, you know, meticulous about cleanliness and the water temperature and all that stuff. So it's embarrassing. It sucks. And you don't want to have hair in your food. So I go to the back, and I'm like, hey, I'm so sorry, guys, but be careful. There's hair in the food. And I look over at the chef, really sweet guy, and he's like, this guy Nick, and he's like, all right, cool, but it's crab cake, right? And I'm like, yeah, it's crab cake. And he looks over, and literally the person making the crab cakes had red hair. And this was like a thick ass black hair. And of course, this is where all restaurant people go, is like, how are they trying to fuck us? But anyway, so then I'm like, he's like, that's weird because so-and-so's on saute. But okay, no problem. All right, so put it back. And then, whatever, I go back over, hey, it's off the check, it's my apologies. You know, round of drinks on me, or, you know, I'd always overdo it.
Sure.
That was my style, just overdo it. I don't feel like dealing with these fucking people, honestly. You know what I mean? So,
Leave
appetizers,
happy.
whatever. Right. Yeah. And, you know, you want them to feel good, right? Like you give a shit, because you do. And so then I go back. I go back to check in on the table, because once there's a problem, I want to hover.
Sure.
Not in a way where it's like annoying, more in a way where like the people realize that they're going to get some extra attention. And so maybe like the next dish, because they got a bunch of food, these people, they got a ton of food. So the next dish is like a lobster cocktail. It's like lobster avocado. It's watercress. It's a fun little dish.
Your
whatever.
memory is outstanding.
Thanks, man. That's with all the ganja I go through.
Wow.
And so I walk over to the table, and I'm like, hey, I just want to double check. How's everything going? You know, how's the lobster cocktail? And they're like,
Another one.
Another fucking hair. And I'm like, no fucking way. And then, of course, you know, your automatic reaction to anything is, I'm so sorry. How does this happen?
Well, what else can you do?
What else can you do?
In that moment.
What else can you do?
Right.
So I like, you know, like a sad puppy dog. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Pull it off the table. Go back. And then I'm like, Anthony, dude, we're going to have to do something for these guys. And he's like, boss, hold on. These people are weird. I'm like, what do you mean they're weird? He's like, look at them. We like look over, and they look kind of dingy, you know, whatever. And I'm like, well, what do you think? And he's like, I don't know, boss, but don't jump to anything yet. They got more food coming. I'm like, oh, do they? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. So then I go back, you know, and at this point, I'm mortified. I'm morbiate. I don't want to go back.
Of course not.
I'm like, now I'm avoiding that portion of the restaurant because I'm embarrassed. Well, so then Anthony comes back, and he's like, I'm like having like a nice tea or something, and he's like, yo, boss. And I'm like, he's like, yeah.
Another hair.
Well, I walk back out there, and now on the bottom of the ribeye, there's another black hair. And I was like, I said, I'm like, we've been open for a little over a year, and I've never had a problem with hairs.
Let alone 3 on one plate from 3 different stations.
And yes.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know what's going on, guys, but
let's just chalk this one up to a loss. And
I said, I don't believe that these are hairs coming
you went
from.
there.
I
Okay.
went there. I fucking went there. I'm like, I don't believe these hairs are coming from us. Could they potentially be coming from you guys? And they got, oh, me? I can't believe you'd even mention that. 3 black hairs? How could it be us? And they got all spicy with me, all in a tizzy. And I said, I'm not making you another ribeye. And I'm going to have to ask you to pay your check in full.
to pay your check. Okay.
In
It
full.
was worth going to that
Yes.
that place for it.
And this is the number one reason it's badass to work at a casino. Because when shit goes
got security.
down, oh, dude. So like, we're not paying this check. We're going to leave. And I said, you're not leaving. You're paying this check.
Did you take anything off the bill?
Nothing. No, because at this point I was like, I might have actually already taken like the first appetizer that I was,
Crab cakes or whatever.
crab cake, yeah. And then they're like, we're not paying. They're like, we need to speak to your manager. And I was like 22 at the time, and I'm like, Miss, I'm the GM. Like, the only other manager I'm going to be calling is the food and beverage director, and pretty sure he's off like flirting with girls at tables. So it's going to be hard to get his attention right now. But what I will tell you is you're going to pay this check and you're going to go. And they're like,
What do you think they were after?
free stuff.
But
Free stuff.
so they were going to continue to. You take these dishes away,
What they wanted to do was construct their own chef's tasting and not pay for it.
but you were taking the dishes away. Like,
Well, right. Well, because because, dude, if you eat a half of 4 dishes, But anyway, so then they got up. They got up like they're going to leave. Like, oh, what are you going to do? That kind of thing, right? And I ran over to the host desk and I was like, call security. They're like, for what? And I'm like, we got dashers, because we call them Dine and Dash. We got dashers. And dude, like within
seems like it
90
just rolled out of your tongue. Like
seconds,
it happens all the time.
Atlantic City definitely prepares you for life. Let me
Gotcha.
just say that. And dude, within 90 seconds, like Men in Black comes out. There's like 18 guys, like all like in suits with glasses, and they're like, no, sit down. And like, there's always the one like huge one that looks like a potato with muscles. You know what I mean? Glasses and like sweat beating off his back, has been looking forward to this moment.
Just waiting
all night.
He's been in the back
All
room
night.
somewhere in like
Yes.
in like a football stance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's like, and then of course you got these 2 frail, like dingy looking 58-year-olds. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, don't hurt them. Just make them pay their bill. And I remember the guy looked at me like
Which guy?
the guy who had complained all night,
The diner.
he looked at me like he was going to wait for me outside.
Were you scared leaving that night?
Oh, dude, I would have flicked that guy. He was, although, there are guns, but no, I wasn't afraid. It was just one of those things where that is how you earn the blacklist, right?
Sure.
At that point. So we look up the person, we find their player card, and then
They had
boom.
that. Oh, you can do that.
Well, because the credit card ties back to a name, ties back to a player card, and then they can look
Player
up
card. What is
a
that?
player card is like anytime you go up to a table, you can like show your card, and like let's say for example you
perks.
lose your first child's university savings for their school.
They're like, "Hey,
playing
come back,
blackjack."
here's a card.
Yeah,
Come
they're
have
like,
fun.
they're like,
Welcome.
"Yeah, we'll buy you ramen."
Right.
You know what I mean? And they're like, "Oh, ramen for me," and they're like, "Yeah, play off your second kid's college fund." And but yeah, so we tied it all back, and then they were blacklisted from the casino. But yeah, so that was one person I've kicked out of a restaurant, and maybe I'll save the.
Were you worried about getting kicked out of the cap? Is that what happened? Is that what that fear came from?
No, honestly,
Because
man,
you knew it wasn't. Both dishes were wrong.
both dishes were off, right? And that it happens. It happens.
Of course, it happens.
It
but-
happens. And look, I love the Capitol Grill, and I will continue to go.
Yes.
I believe.
How are you going to adjust your? You're like, what would you? You're definitely
I
not
just
going
gotta.
at
I gotta show
9:15
up earlier.
anymore.
I can't be the last. Look, I mean, I've already got a few friends that have worked in steakhouses their entire life, and they're the ones talking to me.
You're just like a whipped dog. You're going to
Yeah.
obey and
Yeah. What I hear off the top is, what the fuck do you expect?
Really?
It's the Saturday before Easter. I just want to go home. I have to work a long ass shift. I gotta start early tomorrow for a bunch of people.
But you don't compromise the food. You know the difference. They
So
knew
when
the
was the
difference
last?
putting on the
So
plate.
when was the last time you sent something back, Tony?
Well, I told you.
Mister, I stand by the values
No,
that
I just,
need to be delivered at
I
the table.
feel like you should have said, I don't mean send it back,
Yeah.
but said something. There's a difference. There is a difference.
How do you okay?
Like the
How
food
do
is a little, it was a little
how do you
overcooked.
politely say that? Yeah, what's
I don't
what's
say,
the delivery?
bang your plate on this. Give me another one. But the bartender's there, you're having a conversation. The food's not quite cooked properly. I think there is a little bit of, I want it better the next time. I want,
Sure.
it's in the delivery.
Of course it is.
Like your buddy, he didn't want you to go through firing another steak. He was going to eat it, right? And you would have comped something or whatever, like made it okay.
Yeah.
You don't want to cause a scene, but you kind of want him to know.
Yeah, fair enough. I just I don't know. I was like, guess what? It was an off night. I'll come back. I still want to eat wedges and porcini rub Delmonico's.
Yeah, you don't want to get blacklisted.
Yeah, and I don't want to be
you
that
were
guy.
scared.
I'm not
You were
going to be
scared.
that guy. I'm not going to be
Where are
that
we going
guy.
tonight?
I don't know. I feel like we should. What do you guys think? A little Harry Sasson?
When do you not say Harry Sasson?
It's
always
delicious.
of
It's
course
easy.
delicious. It's easy. It's amazing.
It's delicious. Yeah. Yeah. I actually, after all that steak talk, my mouth's watering. I could go for a steak.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's such a rare occurrence. I'm surprised.
Wanting steak. It's
Wow.
so weird.
Cool.
But anyway, so
Wherever you want. Since you had that experience, we can remove,
okay.
wipe this slate clean. We can go get a nice steak tonight.
All right. Cool. We'll just have to take a look at the menu and make sure there's no scallop noodles.
And get there early.
Perfect.
Thank you.
You're listening to XAVI, the saltiest radio station in the Great Washoe County.